I play Magic in the Main Street Plaza, a strip mall in Madison, Wisconsin. My name is Zach the Bold Ronaldo. I'm a 26-year-old male. I believe in scalping Magic cards, going on Reddit, and saying why Pathfinder is great. And I believe in a vigorous gold fishing routine. In the morning, if I have yet to eat, I make sure to order in my favorite DoorDash food. I should have practiced more. The monologue wasn't on the top of the dome. I'll work on it, all right? But I think that's a good start. This is called spitballing. I had it up on me. I was like, this would be good. And then I thought of it too last second. Could I improv it? Yeah, I'm like the best. Here's Ben Schwartz, and then there's me at the bottom. I'm not going to compare myself to Ben Schwartz. I love him. He inspired me to do a lot of stuff. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. My name is Zachary Ronaldo, better known as Zach the Bold. Hello, everybody. I'm not kidding. When I was a senior in high school, I was asked to do I was the pinnacle in my community, of course, as you should be in your own. Be a steward. Here's 2 ways you can be a steward in your community today. Number 1, you can go and you can wash a public sign. Number 2, you can go on Amazon right now and you can buy a new basketball hoop net and go put it up at the local park. There you go. That's all it takes. When I was in high school, a senior in high school, I was a pinnacle of the community. I was redistributing funds that were supposed to go to, good charities, underdeveloped parts of the town, and I was putting it in my pockets. I was really into Pokemon TCG at the time. X and Y just came out. That was a great set, folks. Those are gold bars nowadays. Too bad I opened all of them up. And I did run a auction, not of my own volition. Is it too bright? Is the exposure too high? Maybe. 1 second. Oh, Zach, that looks worse. Well, glad I did it. Glad that's me. That's me in the future looking at the editing. The monitor's too far away. And I tried to learn the auctioneer voice. We got it one. It's been a while since I've done it, right? And apparently there's a whole thing. It's still too bright. Doesn't matter. This is an audio-only podcast. And I tried to learn that. And I was wearing khakis on that day. And I was sweating. I mean, there was probably like 20 people in the room buying stuff. It's a lot of people to do your first ever auction voice. And I was wearing these khakis. And I'd gotten up ready to go. And I remember the person who was helping me at the auction was like, Zach, your entire ass from pretty much your gooch down is drenched in sweat. And your khakis are a dark brown color. And I was like, oh, awesome, cool. So I slid across the wall on the way out. And then I got into my 2005 Mustang GT V6. Don't want to brag. 1.5 liter. I don't know anything about that. I don't know what that means. And I sped off. Is it bright, folks? Welcome back, everybody. Sorry about missing last week. My name is Zach Ronaldo, better known online as Zach the Bold. This is my D&D podcast called BoldTakes and Bad Decisions. And I missed last week. First week technically missed, I think. Or maybe I did in the first 10 episodes. Made sure everything on the playlist is now up to date. You're welcome. I was traveling all last week or the week before or whatever, and I got back Tuesday, and then I recorded the podcast, and then it became corrupted. So I think I still have the audio. Sorry, my allergies are flaring up again. But I still have the audio, and who knows, maybe I'll put it up. I actually thought it was a great, funny episode. But I had not listened through it all the way because of the video was corrupted. And I was like, this is taking up too much time. I have a long form that needs to go out on Friday, and I need to make a short form before then. Held myself accountable to a lot of that stuff. So, sorry about missing it. Love the podcast. It's not going anywhere. Do not worry. We're not going to have a repeat. I have things in a specific order that I want to talk about. So I got to make sure to stay on that. Yeah, been traveling. I travel a lot now. It's a blessing, for sure. I remember the days of working at Chili's or a restaurant in downtown Los Angeles or the Gold's Gym in Hollywood. Arby's, and just seeing the same thing over and over. And some people might like that, but a lot of people are like, oh, I want to travel for work, and it's awesome. I'm in no way saying I'm not blessed for the stuff that I do, but, being on a plane, and I haven't left the U.S., so being on a plane for like 4 hours to visit here or there can be a lot. But I need some perspective, right? I need to take a 16-hour flight to Hong Kong. I need it to be Spirit Airlines. I need it to be the exact same plane that the penguins of Madagascar flew, where it was made out of wood and vines, and realize how good I have it. But yeah, I traveled, and I've been really trying to train myself. I love flying. I got my 3DS out. I had no idea you just cannot buy virtual games on the 3DS. And it's just terrible that there are ways to pirate all of that stuff online. Like, Nintendo, please let me give you more money. Because it's despicable that you can pirate so much online. I want to support my favorite developers. I want to give you an extra $20 for DLC before the game comes out. Please, let me give you more money. Put Super Castlevania 4 back on the 3DS on the shop, and I will spend $70 on it. Because that's worth it, folks. This is what we need to be thinking of. Have we considered that Nintendo needs the money to make more of the same game? Metroid Prime 4, I'm a big Metroid Prime fan, grew up with it, one of my favorite games of all time. Killer soundtracks. Thank you. We're going to get that later. I've already tangentialed too much. And yeah, I'm a little bummed that I saw there was like a motorcycle open world segment. I've been very vocal on the podcast that I don't like Elden Ring because of its open world aspect, even though you can play it very linearly. And you can make the argument that any Metroid or Castlevania or Metroidvania games are technically open world. It's an open map. You go back and forth, and some people like that formula, like me, and some people don't. I like the Metroidvania formula, not the open world. But I gotta admit, I was a little disappointed seeing that. I hope it's just one section of the game. I am not a big fan, nor do I have the time to travel around an empty, desolate desert open world game. I'm not in high school again, where I had all this free time to beat, Dead Rising 1, to get the Mega Man launcher in Dead Rising 1 in one day, and then proceed to beat it that same day because the Mega Man launcher was crazy. Worst aiming mechanics in video game history. There were very tank controls. I guess you couldn't say in history because Resident Evil 1 had it. Welcome to my D&D podcast. I felt like I had some point to all of this. Right, give Nintendo more money. They need it. We need the Switch 3. I heard the Switch 3 might run games at, emulated games at 60 frames. Maybe. We just got to give them a little bit more money and buy the Virtual Boy. Guys, we need to buy Virtual Boys. It was not respected at the time that it came out. You need to be able to hunch down on this little stick and look at red graphics. But yeah, I'm still trying to balance out. It was a little bit of a weird week last week because I was traveling a bunch, and I have been having a thing where I keep making videos and I don't like them, and I scrapped them. The AI video was one I had rewritten. And if you thought maybe that one was on the nose and maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't see it, maybe whatever, right? I thought it was good. If you thought it was preachy in that video, the first edition was way more preachy. So I was like, and then it occurred to me, oh, right, I'm supposed to be entertaining people, not preaching to them. And I was like, oh, I gotta make jokes. Right, that's my job, duh. So I rewrote, and there's a few other videos like that. I have a video coming up. You know what? This is for podcast listeners only. You do not share this information. But I have one on this overwhelming trend of, I think that the equivalent to the Barbarian Mad and the fireball in the room jokes, the equivalent of that in Magic the Gathering, 100% is Counterspell. And that's not, I've ended many Magic the Gathering videos. I think I've made 7 of them, right? With, Counterspell. I've even had like a mental misstep one. That is the crutch of the Magic the Gathering comedy universe, just as much as Fireball in the Room is in D&D. And it works for some, and that's great. Awesome. So glad for you. An over-excessive joke and overdone, and I'm kind of sick of it, is just the constant stinky guy in Magic. Look, guys, look how cringe this guy is. Look how much is. And I have my own fair share of stories of people being bad at a local game store. But oh my God, can we talk about anything else? Some people's entire personalities are just based around stinky guy at game store. Oh, look at this weirdo. You're essentially playing G.I. Joe with fake people being weird at an LGS. And let me tell you, this is not to say that we shouldn't bring light to all this, but I'm like, oh my God, can we also acknowledge the fact that a lot of people have normal LGSs, that some people just go after work? So I'm working on a video like that. And I've made it, remade it. I've reshot. And again, I don't want it to be too preachy, but at the same time, I don't want it to be like me going back and forth. Well, like I just did. So that was one that I had not put. I was supposed to put that out last week, and then I put it together, and I was like, let me sleep on this, and then I slept on it for a week, and it's still not out. So sorry about that. The podcast is always here to stay. I love the podcast until it's not, until I overstay my stay. And the reason that last week's episode didn't go up is sorry. I love the podcast very much, but I still want to make very high quality content. I don't want to fall into the pit of just being like, well, this, gets people, how do I even word this? I want to continue to become better at my job, and the podcast is just an easy outlet to vent my frustrations for the week, or, I love talking to you guys and all of the jokes that you have in the comments, which I do read. But I just wanted to, I want to make sure I'm putting the right effort into the places that it should be put in. So, after the podcast, me trying to recover corrupted data for X amount of time became too much of a problem. I scrapped it. And I said, well, we can wait 1 week. So you got a video on Friday. I hope you enjoyed it. I really did, but we'll get into that in a little bit. I'm going to go over some of the stuff that I missed in the last week as well. I played Warhammer 40K Wrath and Glory, and it's a fun system. I played their starter kit, so I didn't have the full book. And with any starter kit, I've yet to find one starter kit. And I got the Heroes of the Borderlands starter kit. I think it's in the living room. And if you want to know someone's thoughts on it, go look at literally every other creator who reviews stuff like that. All right. I review with my 4 other editions of myself, old AD&D modules, and complaining about them because I don't understand how Advanced Dungeons and Dragons rule system works. That's a joke. It's for accessibility. We've talked about that before on the show. But yeah, I had played the starter kit. Oh my gosh, I have scratches on my hands. Look at my big, ugly Uncle Jack hands. We've talked about this before. Oh! It's the flapjack scream. But I've yet to find a starter kit in the world of TTRPGs that actually have all the rules I need to get through it. This starter kit did fine. I really like this system. It makes me feel like I'm playing the Warhammer war game. Again, I'm going to reiterate, I refuse to play that. It's too much time and money. Too much money. Yeah, I got these, but I can proxy them from someplace overseas, for pennies on the dollar, and I don't have to buy a 3D printing setup. Can we be real? But yeah, I had played Wrath and Glory. I do recommend it if you like Warhammer 40K. I know there's a bunch of other TTRPG settings within Warhammer 40K, but if you want to really feel like you're playing the war game, the D6 system inside of Wrath and Glory is great. Not sponsored in any way. I just think that I never talk about different TTRPGs. It's actually kind of rare for me to play different TTRPGs just because of time constraints and such. But I thought that was a great way to get that going. So if you want to, you can check that out. I just can't get over the fact that, there are terms where I have to look online, and then this is apparently the second edition of the game. I had that problem with Pathfinder too, where right when PF2E came out, that's Pathfinder 2nd edition, and it just came out, to be fair, but like all the resources I found online were all for 1st edition. And that's just a TTRPG thing. That's not this or that, I'm sure. We're still having that problem right now. The new rules for 2024 came out, which are good, and people are pissing their pants. There's so many people that are, so many creators that are just like, okay, I got to relax with that. But they're like, oh, I wish the rules were bad. I had more to talk about. Yeah, I know. All right. I still might put up the last episode at some point, maybe if I miss another week. So I won't go more into what I talked about last week anymore. we're going to get back to what I was talking about now. Thank you, again, for the long form stuff. This is a question to you guys, my audience. I've read, it's only been up for less than 24 hours, and it's doing well, and that's great, and I had a lot of fun making it. The reception has been way different than I thought. Throughout the whole video, I go, yes, and this, and that reason, this, and people are just like, yeah, no, I think this is a funny, cool concept. And if you're listening to this way later months later on, just talking about, this is the video about Dungeons and Dragons magic is much more scary than you think in the least suspecting ways. But a lot of people were totally, this is fun. What a great idea. If I want to run a campaign, I've been thinking about running a campaign like this or that. And I've seen a lot of comments to be like, I love this form of video. Can you continue to make more of this form of video? And I'm just extending an olive branch out, reaching a hand out, that I would like to know if you are thinking that, or maybe you can put into ways from an outside perspective, something that I would, of course, lack. I'm making the videos. What about that video compared to other talking head videos do you see as different? I want to see kind of what that means, what you liked about it, and how it was different. Don't say anything about how you don't like it. Well, don't do that, dude. I mean, maybe if you send in a super chat, that's a joke. Okay. I was curious about that. Some people, one or two people mentioned, did I get a new editor? No, it was me still. I will be getting an editor for some stuff at some point. We've talked about that before. But I think he's fine with me talking, but I had lunch with Bricky recently. Warhammer 40K, and also very versatile YouTuber. I have a lot of respect for him. He makes great stuff. And I had lunch with him, and he said something to me that really stuck out, which was that every time he makes a new video, he wants to be at least 0.1% better. He didn't word it like that, but he said just a little bit better. Every time he wants to make sure that he's doing something that he likes better. Better writing, better lighting. I'm just going to rhyme for the rest of the rest. I can't even say anything without making a bit. It's in my head. I'm plagued. Just in any way. And I took the time to learn the liquefy effect because of Cow Chop. For those of you who know what Cow Chop is, they had this funny liquefy effect. Liquefy is an effect in After Effects where you'll see their face move and whatever. And I had done that in the last video, so I learned that. And then I learned, tracking is so easy. My computer's dying, so that's awesome. You have to buy a new one soon. But, the tracking is so easy. If that's what you guys like more effort in there, then I don't know. I got to figure it out. So, if you would let me know what you liked about it and how you thought it was different. This is a D&D podcast, but as every other Dungeons and Dragons creator has started to do, talk about Magic the Gathering, which makes me feel worse about talking about it because I'm like, okay, listen, I wanted to do variety. I want to get into video games and whatever. And now I feel like maybe I had some influence on creators, and not saying I have that amount of influence or whatever. But I'm like, God, we still need to make Dungeons and Dragons content. We can't just all move to Magic. In a way, Magic is very soul-sucking. People, I think there's right now it's in a great, golden age renaissance. The Magic Renaissance is what I've heard about it. And it's gonna lull just like, D&D is. So can we please keep some semblance of our roots? I will always make D&D videos. Will I make video game videos too? Sure. Will I make Magic? Every now and again, I'm really into it right now, but, I've spent so much time getting back into Warhammer and everything like that, can we not just, okay, I am part of, that problem. I acknowledge that. Problem, not problem, whatever. But yeah, I have, we've reached into, I think it's so funny seeing, some of these creators talk about Spider-Man and some like it, and you're allowed to like things, you're not allowed to like others. And, I don't care about this set at all. I don't, whatever, but it's a good point in time to be like, listen, right, this is not a magical thing. It is Magic the Gathering, whatever. But it's not like this thing that it's going to have its perils, its qualms. It has a bunch of them. They have their most popular format is under constant scrutiny that it needs a bigger ban list, a smaller ban list, no ban list, needs to be split into two different groups, needs to be in the sense of TEDH and regular EDH and whatever. It's to come in that world. I had written down a quick rant about Magic, and I don't think that's what it was. So sorry for the rehashed talking points. one thing I did want to talk about was perspective. I get a lot of questions in for this show, and I try sometimes to give a perspective, and a lot of the time that's wrong because I misread the question and things like that. But I want you to take a second to go back a little bit. You wake up. Your alarm goes off and you slap it down. Turns off. You look around the room. There's a peak of blue morning sunlight peeking through your curtains. You look around. There's a bundle of laundry you got to do. You look over and you see a room that you've woken up to for the last who knows how many years. Almost to the point that you can't distinguish one morning from the next. You look over and you see a collection of trophies on against the wall. And in the elementary, and it peaks up and then, goes to middle school and high school, and they start to drop until the only thing you have is your college degree hanging up on a Dollar Tree frame, because that's all you could afford right now. You look at your phone, you see that there's like a million different calls missed. It's your boss. You hang up. Hello? Where are you? You're supposed to be in 2 hours ago. You slept in. You quickly, I'll be there. You turn it off. Get out of bed, throw on the same set of clothes that you wore yesterday. 7-hour turnover since your last shift. You put on your little hat. It's got a white A on it. Hard cut. Drove over. You're looking at someone. Can I get an he's drooling. You look around, there's kids running around. It's lunch rush at your job at Arby's. It's another day. Working for pennies on the dollar. You went to 2 years of community college and then finished it out and got your bachelor's. You shake off the thought. You look to your right. You see your boss is looking at you. He's mouthing something. Someone smeared feces in the bathroom. He's holding a mop. I need you to get it. Go in and close the door. It's after your shift. You're tired. Day has melted into night, and you haven't seen a lick of sunlight except for the drive there. Your face is illuminated with a menagerie of different colors, different problems wrong with your 2005 Honda Civic. Engine lights that have been on since you first put in the keys when you bought it off your grandma's neighbor. You get a call. It's your buddy from college. Hey, man, are you coming to D&D tonight? You remember. Oh, right. Yeah, man. Hey, I had a long shift, and I've never played before, but hey, no, it's okay. It's cool. There's a lot of new people. We just want to see you, man. You look up. You see a couple stars in the sky. You see a BlackRock drone fly by. Yeah, sure, man, I'll be there. You hang up instantly. It's a match cut of you putting the phone down at the table. You come in, you see old faces new, your buddies behind the GM screen. Everyone's eating snacks, hanging out. People are having side conversations. Who are you bringing? A champion fighter, I think. Some people sneer at you. Others think it's cool, refreshing. Almost a semblance of nostalgia in their eyes. And the session goes on. And all of a sudden, you're the last one up. The evil wizard is there. Everyone else is down. You swing, you roll a 19. Wait a minute, that's a crit. I'm a champion fighter. You knock him down, everyone cheers. Yeah. And you're looking at all of them, and their voices begin to drown out as if you're underwater. And then you blink, and when you open your eyes again, you're at your childhood dinner table. You look around and you see nothing but familiar faces. Some old, some young, some you haven't seen in a very long time, and you didn't think you were going to see again. You look down and you see a couple of candles atop a homemade cake that one of your parents made you. And they didn't have the money to get the SpongeBob one, but it's yellow. It's got a little, $2 decorations from your local Kroger or Meijer or whatever. And you look at some of them cheering you on, and you look down at your hands and you look the same, but everyone around you, different ages, different, almost as if you remember them in the brightest light that you knew them in. And it occurs to you, you don't know whether you're dreaming, if this is real, if it's not, and you shout to some of them, whether it be, buy this, invest in this, don't go driving that day, go to a doctor earlier. I wish I had only 30 more seconds with you. And you can't interact with any of them. But when you talk, those candles flicker. And it illuminates their faces. And you realize that's the only thing that changes in this room. And you look around thinking you're going to see your child at home. And it blurs out into a shadow, into a void. And you look around and you realize as the wax melts down the candle, almost like a timer, it's the only impact you have. And you can't decide if you want to stay or if you want to go back. So you blow out the candles. You wake up again. Bum, 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 bum. It's another day. You slam down your alarm clock. You pick up your dirty laundry. You put it away. You even dust off those old trophies. Bum, 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 bum. You look down. It's your boss. A million notifications. Hello? Zach, it's late. They talk to you. You're late. You hang up the phone. You don't even listen to the rest of what they say. You throw on your hat. You're driving through. You notice that the street lights illuminate you as you go into your early shift. And it reminds you of the time you had your Game Boy Color in the back of your parents' car as the lights illuminated it. The only way that you could see. And you get to Arby's and someone's talking to you and spitting on your face. And you look over and your boss is holding a mop and you're smiling. And you realize in this grand scheme of things that everything changes as much as it doesn't. And you head over and it's D&D night again. Bum, bum. And someone knocks down a dragon and they're about to get the stunning blow, but you intervene, you use a superiority dice and you attack it. And you defeated the dragon and everyone cheers for you again. Except the person that was going to attack it. And you look at them and they're pale. Placid. They don't have any emotion on their face. And over the cheers and people grabbing you and saying, huzzah, that's all you can fixate on. You wake up the next day, bum, 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 and you put everything back together. Can I get French dip and mott sticks? Zach, the bathroom. And you go back, it's D&D night again. And someone's having a close, intimate moment with their backstory, and you butt in, and you make a quip. And some people laugh, and some nod, and now two people don't look the same. And then that happens again, and again, and again. And eventually, you stand up, you're knocked down, and you're yelling at the GM about rules. No, that's not how it is. You take down the final villain and no one claps. Everyone looks at you seething. And you're standing up. Well, no, you're supposed to be cheering, celebrating. Why are you not? And you realize that they're not reacting to you. No. But you were all supposed to cheer. I was supposed to be the savior, me. Why not? Why not me? And you sit back down defeated, and almost like a divine intervention, you feel something in you as your water line around the eyes begins to well. You feel as if you're surrounded in this cosmic space, riding around a speck of dust on the trail someone else walks in. And then it occurs to you. You stand up. You're not at the table. You're at a community theater representation of My Fair Lady. Tears in your eyes, and you yell, I get it! and the spotlight goes on you and everyone on stage looks in awe. I just have to be funnier. And that is the birth of the jokester at the table, the spotlight hog. I get it. And that's how these things are made. Have some perspective, people. Next time you're the funny guy at the table makes a joke, applaud them. Say thank you. He brought old mod sticks and melted Jamocha shake to the table. This is a comedy podcast? I'm crying. Hey, a little too real for that one. I'm trying to gain you all perspective. I'm sweating. It's hot as hell in this room. That is what we lack, guys, right? That is why we love D&D. You can't do that in Magic unless you want to rage bait people. My mom sent me a GIF. Yes, I say GIF or GIF or whatever. And it's me doing the tongue thing from one of my videos. Thanks to whoever made that, by the way. Whatever. I have one more rant before we get into questions. See, this has mostly been D&D related. I'm going to start because I'm going to get flack. I'm going to, people are going to be upset at me, whatever. I've stumbled across the worst subreddit. This subreddit's name is called D&D Circlejerk. And I'm not saying I hate it because, I don't enjoy their takes. Because, this is just irony. I agree with a lot of this. The criticisms that people have on r/D&D Circlejerk sometimes are stuff that I've talked about on the podcast. Sometimes creators being lazy, sometimes that there's a lull in originality when it comes to joke. And again, let me reiterate that I have made pretty much 200 short form videos in the span of 2 years now. I think the anniversary of the channel just came around, or from me making D&D videos. And listen, I understand, and I think all of the criticism is valid. If I make something, if I am always complaining about things being unoriginal within the D&D community, and then all of a sudden I do make a Barbarian Mad video trying to add a new angle to it, right? And it's still just the same thing in some way. But I've made 200 videos, and I'm always hoping that I can make something better and bigger than myself and bring in new things. I mean, the biggest part of this job at this point is the idea phase, right? But the problem I have with this subreddit is that it is by far the worst Circlejerk subreddit I've ever seen. Unjerk, rejerk, unjerk, rejerk. Unjerk, rejerk. For those of you who don't know, first off, what a Circlejerk subreddit is, it's supposed to be ironic. It's supposed to make fun of, the popular opinions. That's why it's called Circlejerk. Everyone's saying the same thing, right? It's the same rehashed everything. And it's supposed to be dripping in irony. It is supposed to be nothing but shit posts. Nothing but. And this subreddit is just unjerk, rejerk, unjerk, rejerk. It's people going from, well, this is my ironic part, and this is me asking something serious. And this is the ironic part, and this is something serious. How? Oh, vile. If I go into a Circlejerk subreddit, I want to take 8 months. It should take me a year and a half of research to even begin to skim the boiling hot top surface that is understanding the jokes in this subreddit. Unjerk, rejerk, unjerk, rejerk. That's called discourse. That's not what a Circlejerk subreddit is. You might as well go on r/D&D. You might as well. Well, this is when I'm ironic, and this is when I'm being serious. What's the point? You are in a Circlejerk subreddit. It's a part of it. Unjerk, rejerk, unjerk. And if it happened once or twice, right? Whatever, fine. Every comment is rejerk. I'm being ironic. I'm being funny. Haha. Unjerk, well, this is actually a real problem. That is not why I'm here. Well, Zach, if you want that, you got to go to an OK Buddy subreddit. What is the point of this subreddit if it all is just unjerk, rejerk, unjerk, rejerk? That's called having a conversation. That's not what this is for. You guys should all be making posts and comments that have 70 layers of irony that no one has any idea what your true convictions or opinions about D&D is. That is the point of the subreddit. While /s, grow some balls. Grow some balls and make stupid jokes. And go into the comments and make sure no one has any clue what your actual thoughts are. That is the point of a circle jerking subreddit. Unjerk, rejerk, unjerk, rejerk. Pathetic. I want to go into a circle jerk subreddit and I want to look at the stupid opinions or great opinions and have no idea which is which. Unjerk, rejerk, unjerk, rejerk. Is that the point of it? I know indie games that came out in 2002 with 12 followers that have better circle jerking subreddits than D&D. What is the point? For the love of God. Unjerk, rejerk, unjerk, rejerk. Am I having discourse with, is this the equivalent of theater kid circle jerk? I did theater for like 10 years plus. And that's how it felt. Why are we being so safe? Why? Unjerk, rejerk, unjerk, rejerk, unjerk, rejerk. It's ironic. That's the point of the subreddit. Why are we having discussions that are unjerk, rejerk? I can't stand it. I'm losing my mind. It could be something great. It could be something funny. Every one of the posts is talking about this is bad, funny, ironic thing that's bad because everyone does it in the D&D community. Look at your comments. It's the same thing. Unjerk, rejerk, unjerk, rejerk, unjerk, rejerk. Oh my God. It is supposed to be dripping with irony and meta jokes and dumb, stupid stuff. Everyone who goes into the D&D Circle Jerk subreddit should have no idea. It should be a burning building. It should be a building burning full of clowns and people who are being ironic. Instead, I go and it's like a polished, it's like Squidward's Neighborhood. Well, it reminds me of like those nerds, I think in the season 2 episode of It's Always Sunny, where I think it's called Mac bangs Dennis's mom, Dennis and Dee's mom, and they're like, he called us nerds. This is what it's like to be someone who is a hard union guy. This is what it's like. That's what I feel like being on that subreddit. This is what it's like to be someone on an ironic subreddit instead of being an ironic, stupid subreddit. There should be valid criticisms inside of r/D&D Circle Jerk, but it should be dumber. And it shouldn't be, well, here's me when I'm being ironic, so it's, safe. But you know that because I'm saying rejerk, and then here's me being serious because I said unjerk, because I don't actually think that. What is the point? Can we take a little bit of risk, maybe? We should have people. I couldn't believe my eyes. I couldn't believe it. There should be 4 million dumb jokes that are self-referencing each other inside of r/D&D Circle Jerk that if you were to join at this point in time, it would take you weeks to catch up. And instead we go in and it's rejerk, unjerk, rejerk, unjerk. I don't actually believe that. It's anonymous. You're on Reddit. Why does it matter? So that's my update with that. It's whatever, maybe there's an OK Buddy D&D. Maybe that's what I'm looking for. r/D&D Circle Jerk, the safest discourse community on Reddit. Are we insane? Rejerk, unjerk, rejerk, unjerk. Let's get into some questions. What up, D&D Germa? Love from Australia. I've been watching you since I first got on YouTube, and you are by far my favorite D&D YouTuber, mainly because half the time you don't talk about D&D. You also got me and my 2 twin brothers into the game. I couldn't connect with them prior to playing, and so you changed our lives. Great. That's awesome. Love to hear it. We've played multiple campaigns. See, this is me. Oppenheimer, Ripple Effect, Am I doing this for people with Magic? Do I even want to be doing this for people in Magic? If someone says they play D&D, I'm playing D&D with my 2 twin brothers. Of course, I told them telepathically because we're twins. Do I want to say, hey, Zach, you got me into MTG. And now I refinanced my house and I got a Spider-Man, I got a Bagel and Schmear Cosmic Foil. And, also they just banned it in Standard and now also it's worth 25 cents. Is that what I want? Are those the ripples? We played multiple campaigns. I've DM'd and they played and had heaps of fun. However, I'm now moving away from them, and so we won't be able to play in person. What do you think the best way is to play the game if you can't play in person? What do you think about online play or digital tabletop tips? Also, shout out Logan and Seth. Sweet. Yeah, and thanks so much, Zach. No problem. This is a real thing. Happens all the time. First off, if you're moving, this is the first time moving. It's a big step in your life. Make sure to take some time to consider what you value and who you are as a person and things like that. Just because, it's if you move to a new area, maybe you're moving for college, you don't know anybody. You should always be able to have yourself to love and be around and have the hobbies that you love and everything. So if you haven't had time to think about that, this is your little thing to be like, hey, you're moving, your life is changing. Take some time for yourself. And just make sure that you acknowledge that change in your life is happening, and that reconcile with yourself, confide in yourself, and just be like, hey, there's a lot of change in my life happening right now, but I always have myself, and there's a reason I'm doing this, and whatever. That was me projecting. All right. Yeah, I think digital tabletops are fine. This is, we've talked about it on the show before. I don't think it's as good as in-person D&D, so this is what I will say. Make it so that you can play in person for the last session if you can. Because in-person and online D&D are very different. Talking over each other is different. Interacting with people in person is very different. Some people can roleplay better online. Some people can't. I think, though, for a last session, it's always beautiful to be in person for it, and that's not available for everyone. I know some people in the world, not personally, that have to go to Alaska for 12 months of the year, for 6 months of the year, who have to go and they're on an oil rig, and they slam the chain around, and oil goes in their eyes, and they go, "Sir, you're bleeding. I ain't got no time to bleed." So yeah, I think it's fine. I've tried Foundry. I've tried Roll20. I've tried Tabletop Sim. I haven't tried D&D's official. What is that called? I don't know. We'll know in a year when some big creator makes a video like, whatever happened to Sigil? That's what it's called, Sigil. So I've tried all of them. Find one that works for you. D&D Beyond is fine. It's a lot simpler, in my opinion, than Roll20. Roll20 works well. Foundry works well. If you're doing a book, I recommend Roll20. If you're doing a Pathfinder book, I recommend Foundry. It's going to be something that you need to adapt and work. Some can even say that it's. I've run Strahd. I ran Death House in Photoshop. I shared my screen in Photoshop, so. There's many different ways to do it. Some people would say it adds another layer of complexity to DM prepping, and I can agree with that. That's totally fine. Not as much for the books. A lot of people have done that work already. So you might want to resort a little bit more to more theater of the mind, depending on how you're playing. Tabletop Simulator's good. Some people find it to be too much work, or they have to buy Tabletop Sim. Some people see it as like, oh, I have to boot up my whole PC, which you do have to do no matter what. But it seems to be like a little bit more, it's not like graphically difficult to handle Tabletop Sim at all. Then you get the guy who's funny and he flips the table a bunch of times and stuff. So I prefer, if we're playing online, I don't mind Roll20 and I don't mind Foundry, but I barely ran anything online and I don't really prefer it. But if you're doing this for your twin brothers, absolutely, do that, whatever. I just came off a very hot tangent. Now I'm talking, I feel like pretty chill, pretty fine. I've said it a million times on the channel, just don't make it a roleplay server. That would very much change everything. But yeah, just be prepared too. It might take a little bit more time to set up, find the right models and stuff. It's more versatile. You have more tools at your disposal, but still. Dear Mr. Bold, as a DM, I want to work on my narration so I can bring more immersion to my table. But I start to talk and I feel like I use all 6 words that I seem to know and say. One of the 80,000 words that trigger one of my sleeper agent party members to call out a quote, and suddenly the vibes are gone. I get the quotes because, did I write this into myself? I get the quotes because I operate the same way, but I don't know how to improve this skill without sitting down and reading the dictionary. My favorite hobby already includes math. Don't need more work. Any advice for using narration as a tool for immersion? Yeah. I think this is because I've realized too, in no way am I, what are those guys called? The people who know regional dialects and stuff. In no way do I have any background in that at all. But just from being, going from public school to a private Christian university and then going out to LA and to the Midwest and traveling around, all the way up to, shout out Prestonburg, Kentucky. And I've learned that a lot of people actually have, it's like a bitology. Like vexology, I think that's flags, but it's a vernacular of bits that they have, almost like sleeper cell agents where you say something. Right now, of course, in the zeitgeist of kids TikTok, young adult TikTok, Your Honor, it's 6'7". It's whatever, right? That's a sleeper cell agent. My age had 21, I feel like millennials, it's like an overall thing, but like millennials are way more funny number 6'9", right? I don't know what's happening to us as a society to make it so that when we see number, we whatever. So I'm assuming, and I think if you watch me DM for skill check, you'll notice I do also repeat the same things. There are certain things I cannot say around my friends or else it activates them like sleeper cells. So let's try to get to the root of how we can do this without reading a dictionary, which would also be like the worst way to learn new words. You're looking for thesaurus. Do we even have those anymore? Thesaurus? So there's the easy way of, we got to look at it of like training, like a monk, like an absolute Batman. I don't want to go on that tirade anymore. Ruff, do something. Batman strapped to a nuke. There's like a level 20 Leviathan, an SCP, like it's the Riddler, dude, and he's like, it's like the size of Galactus. So number 1, let's change your mindset up, right? When something happens in the world, think your 5 senses. Touch. I almost said touch and feel. Sure. Touch, smell, sight, sound, right? Maybe if you keep saying the same things, close your eyes like that scene of Ratatouille when he's eating the cheese and the strawberry, right? And you're like, all of a sudden the anti-gravity, this is a quick example because I had just run Warhammer 40K. All of a sudden the anti-gravity chamber, and the anti-gravity field turns off. I'm already messing up. You slam into the ceiling, your head knocks back, you're starting to see too. You look down, you look to the left and the right, and you see a purple light illuminate on your friends, and before you can come to your senses, you smell the burning smell of sulfur and boiling pus and plague and disease. You can tell it's a part of a Nurgle campaign. But go through and like describe your senses, not just your sight, even though I just described all my sight. But you gotta do that, right? Number 2, hey, I'm sorry to say, I know you're a math guy. I know you're a STEM guy. From what you said, guy or girl, or whatever. You gotta read books. You gotta find a good author you like, and you gotta read books. I say Chevron now a lot because it was mentioned one time in Eisenhorn. Do you know what a Chevron is? I didn't. I thought it was the gas station. To the Chevron logo, where it's like the repeating, those are called chevrons. I use that word in a D&D campaign now or in the Warhammer, because they landed on the whatever, and they're like, I'm like, there is this is probably not right, but it's like a facade of chevrons, yellow and black chevrons around the landing pad. Oh, good word. So you got to read, you got to find something that you can. If you're not much of a reader, you got to listen to audiobooks. Even my blue-collar friends from back home can listen to 60 hours of audiobooks while they work. It works. You just got to find which way to consume that, right? I don't particularly say, like, look up the Spark Notes or YouTube lore simplifying or whatever. But you got to go into you got to go into that, that space. You got to expand your mind, right? Yeah, and then I guess just the last piece of advice is, you can try to learn a word a day. There are email subscription services to do this thing. You can start to be like, what is a word I keep repeating? What are synonyms for such a thing? And start learning those synonyms and going through them. This is too much like an actual advice podcast. I need you to look up at I need you to stand up at your table and look at all of your friends. And you need to tell them one by one, get over it. No more bits at the table. I need you to have, in like stadiums where they have the balloons and the confetti held up by nets, fill that with mayonnaise and pull the string and let it fall all over the table as it explodes. All right, thank you for the question. Dear Mr. Bold, I'm about to run a session where the players are going to enter a desecrated druid temple that is as dank and disgusting as Kokomo, Indiana. Never mention that vile place to me again. However, I realized something in that this dungeon is one where necromancers are hiding a group of zombies to be used at a future date. This is no problem in of itself, but I just realized that I had run a very similar adventure just recently. Sure, it's 11 death cultists this time, and last time it was a guy hiding in a cheese cave waiting to sell undead soldiers to the dwarves, but I wonder if this is a sign of burnout or something. Is there any adventure type or story beat you find yourself repeating? As a player new to Daggerheart, how do you keep Fungrill from turning into the world of Telephone? Thank you in advance. I think this is a great question for multiple reasons. I literally derive most of my story beats from things that I loved as a kid. And at some point, I'm sure that it's gonna really start to weigh on me as well. Half-Life, Metroid Prime, The Walking Dead, so much more. Condemned, Criminal Origins, a lot of Xbox 360 games. Does it mean you're burnt out? No, unless you feel burnt out. Do you not want to run it? Are you trying to be lazy with it and just make whatever? Or does this thing still, does this still make you feel like you're having a good, fun time and it's some story you want to tell? If that's the case, that's fine, right? Your players may be a little fatigued of the trope, but that doesn't mean that it's the worst thing in the world. If we're asking about burnout, no, I wouldn't say so. And we'll get to the rest of the burnout in the question in a bit. Is there any adventure type or story beat you find yourself repeating? Yeah, well, I don't want to, I guess for no spoilers from Half-Life 2 Episode 2, a 20-year-old game, but I've literally said before in-game, prepare for unforeseen consequences, word for word. And I use that in like every time I'm like, I'm going to say it different. It's not going to be that, but I say it every time. Yes, there are story beats that I repeat all the time. Other than that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I would have, and I talk about this, plug for the card video and whatever. I would talk about like the tropes, the bad guy and the good guy teaming up to fight something bigger. The Castlevania be very strong, and then losing all that power. But I've stemmed away from all of that. I really have, because it just doesn't work in this capacity in a D&D setting. So yes, I think that's the thing. I mean, you're literally, we think about cultural influence and how we are formed and made as people. And, I'm Midwest born and raised, and that's going to have some kind of impact on, how I tell my stories, just as much as me loving Half-Life or 30 Days of Night or 28 Days Later will have an impact on me running a vampire or zombie campaign, right? The burnout problem is something else. If you are literally like, I don't want to work on this, I want to stick to my familiar tropes, this is what I'm going to advocate for. We are in a time of a lull in D&D. For some of us, that's not the case. I think overall, in the popularity of D&D, it is true. And I want, if you are feeling this as a DM, I want to advocate for just you guys to take, if you're running one campaign, I want you to take a month or two off. If you're really not, and you're fighting through it, and you really, really cannot get through it, I'm really encouraging you guys to run a month or two campaign. Run another campaign on top. I'm really encouraging you guys to take a 2-month break. In that 2 months, I need you to try to reignite your fire, your spark. Try to respark your flame for your passion for D&D. Rewatch Lord of the Rings. If you haven't watched Lord of the Rings in the last 10 years, go ahead and rewatch it. don't always stick to the stuff you know. Go ahead and watch something, Alien Earth. Go watch Alien Earth. It's a great show. If you go watch stuff that is going to make you want to be creative. Sometimes when that happens, I re-listen to some episodes of Not Another D&D podcast. My favorite actual play of all time is Unsleeping City. I love any episode of Unsleeping City. And I go back and I listen to that. I listen to Brendan Lee Mulligan's introduction monologue from all of the characters that are being introduced at the beginning, things like that. I think, you should, if, and this is not for everyone, and you are not burnt out if you can't think of one session, right? I don't want you to think this is just me saying if you come across the hardest part of thinking, you should take a 2-month break. If you are truly burnt out with Dungeons and Dragons, take a second and watch, read, listen to stories that interest you, stories that make you want to be creative, stories that inspire you, new stories, and stories that you haven't seen in a bit, right? And I think you are never going to get better, especially in this case, of finding new story beats, of, changing expectations, of reigniting your passion for the game, is if you only go back to the same things. And this is a thing I've been dealing with. Like when I was growing up, much more in my college years, I played roguelikes. That's all I did. I played roguelikes and I played like Counter-Strike. Well, those games are great and they're fun and whatever, but I have like, this is not anything to anybody, but I have like 400 hours in Binding of Isaac, which is barely anything for a lot of people. But like those 400 hours, I wasn't spending helping my craft, being more creative. I wasn't learning anything new. And I think for a lot of us who play video games, if you've realized that or not, you're kind of not, I don't want to say falling behind. You should always have an outlet for you to turn your brain off and relax. But if you're spending 8 hours a day on the weekends or whatever, and maybe, everyone's situation's different. People have different, but I was working the life of a server. I was also making videos at the same time. If you want to get out of your situation, and there's a million different factors to that and stuff too, you do have to be working on something else. And if you work, well, Zach, I work 12 hours and I come home and I'm exhausted and I'm burnt out and I barely have time for myself for anything. And it's just, I was in that same boat. I was incredibly discouraged after college. And especially during college, I would have no motivation to do anything except, play Binding of Isaac or a different roguelike or CS or whatever. And in a way, I was falling behind of my peers in the sense of, especially in the filmmaking world, the more you can be inspired from, the more you can grab from, the better you can become at your art. And I don't know what that looks like as an engineer. I don't know what that looks like as a nurse. I don't know what that looks like as a trucker. I don't know what that looks like as someone in HVAC or construction, right? I don't know what lateral moves you want to make. I don't know what different moves, right? I was in the corporate world. As an intern, I interned in creative development, and I've seen how that world works. I've seen my friends work 60 hours a week at an agency. 60 hours. You got soft hands, brother. And what I have to say to that, and what I can recommend to that, is that, you can still relax while improving yourself. And this is not like, listening to a self-help podcast or whatever. But in the case of being creative, sometimes it is better to consume than to produce. Sometimes it is better to watch a movie. Sometimes it is better than this and that. But you have to realize that, like, it's like chips, eating chips. It's a thing to do at that moment. But it's the same thing of playing a roguelike. Playing Hades. Well, Hades has a story and whatever, but, you can get bogged down by playing Cookie Clicker or Zoo Tycoon or this and that. And some of you, right, are totally, it's like you don't need to do that. You don't, whatever. But if you're feeling a lull in your creative outlets in any capacity, D&D, maybe you want to become a content creator, an actor, you want to draw better, you want to have some kind of creative outlet. And I think everyone does need a creative outlet, but I know that there are inherently people who aspire to be more creative than others and whatnot, right? And I think being mindful of your consumption is what you need to acknowledge for beating the burnout, for becoming more creative, for expanding your horizons. That's the point of story. It's another reason that we tell these stories in D&D, pre-written modules, whatever, right? It becomes this area where everyone can share their perspectives and what their character would do under this facade of storytelling. And at some point, right, how many times can I rehash Condemned Criminal Origins and 30 Days of Night into a story, right? But then I watch and I read Eisenhorn. And then I go out and I make a collaboration with Alien Earth. And all of a sudden now I have new things. And I realized this coming out of college. I realized that I had spent so much time not being mindful of my free time while still relaxing, that I had not improved. I am still to this day relying on content, world-renowned films and video games and stories and whatever, that I had before I had a gaming PC, before, I moved out and didn't watch as much film with my families and stuff. I'm still relying on those tropes. And recently I've tried to make a concerted effort to go back and miss all of the stuff that I didn't watch, to go back and read a book. And we are in the age of the overconsumption meta. All right. We're in a new meta, folks. There is so much to watch, and especially coming out of post-COVID, like the 2021 to 2024, we have so much content to just catch up on. It's like homework, right? So now it's beyond the point of like, at some point, I'm going to have to pick and choose. The water cooler talk, the Breaking Bad, the Sopranos, the Game of Thrones, that is over. It's done. There's too much. I was telling my friends about Wendigoon and Meat Canyon, and they thought I was making a parody. Because think about that. I'm like, yeah, I've been watching Wendigoon and Meat Canyon. And they're like, are those smiling friend characters? So we are in the age of too much content that we have to be particular about what we're consuming. And if you're spending 2,500 hours on Tarkov, and this is not supposed to be a wake-up call or whatever, this is just a reminder, or maybe something that even hasn't even crossed your mind. You can be mindful about your consumption. You can be mindful about expanding your mind and horizons while relaxing after a hard day at work, after a 12-hour shift at Chili's and having one quesadilla, right? And it's easy for me to say that in my place right now. But I'm also the busiest that I've ever been with a job in my life. It's different, and when I can still work on a lot of things that I want to see this channel and my career and everything aspire to be. But at the same time, a 12-hour block at a serving shift at a job where everyone yells at you and it's mentally and physically taxing is way harder. It's way harder to do those things. No wonder I played 400 hours of Binding of Isaac and 2,000 hours in CSGO, right? That's the easy thing to do. But you can still do the easy thing and learn a lot. So if that rant was particular to you, great. I'm glad. I hope it didn't deter you from being on all the time. And if it didn't, and you're like, hey, listen, I'm a cinephile. I listen to a lot of music and whatever, there's also a point, and that's a different rant of like, okay, well, now it's time to show your work. And now it's time to produce, right? That was a very specific example for burnout, for getting stuck on the same tropes, for all of this. So we are going to go into the super chats and everything like that. Medroute 98 with another 45 says, God bless. Thank you. Really appreciate you. Thank you for supporting the channel. Ghost Toast 36 sent $5. Thanks for another episode of my favorite blue collar D&D podcast. No problem, Ghost Toast. I appreciate the 5. Maz Speed has a cool car profile picture. Said, hey, Zach the Bold, just want to show support on the channel. Sent 20. Thank you for the big 20. Appreciate you. I love your D&D, but your personality and comedy is what keeps me watching. I only recently discovered your channel and watched all the videos in the past week. Keep up with the great work, and I hope you continue to reach your goals. Thank you, dude. And thank you for supporting it so I can. Jacob Clark 932 sent in $2. Hey, Zach, what company did you use for your custom Final Boss mini that you keep on the shelf? P.S. I'm glad the podcast is back. I love watching you descend into madness each episode. Thanks. Plague Miniatures made the model, and then fistful of brushes on Instagram painted it. So Did a great job. Papillon7210 with a big 10. Thank you. Says, nice to have another episode of my favorite Raytheon and ExxonMobil sponsored D&D podcast to listen to this Monday afternoon after work. No problem, Papillon. I heard some other big companies are reaching out to me. I was trying to think of like, what's that one from Payday 2? Burning Blaze 005 sent in $5. Hey, Zach, quick thing I want to say. I finished the final episode of Chaos Theory Season 1, and I loved it so much, and I can't wait until 2050 when Season 2 comes out. I've been trying to watch Dimension 20 and some other actual plays, but it's not the same as Chaos Theory, and you spoiled me. My steak was too juicy, and now every ribeye I come across is like dirt. Burning Blaze, I appreciate the 5. Thank you. I had committed to Chaos Theory 2, maybe 3 Novembers ago. At this point, the channel has increased 4 to 5 times fold. We're almost at 500,000 on YouTube. And I'm already navigating a lot on my plate. A lot of travel, a lot of conventions, a lot of collaborations that I did not have during the first season of Chaos Theory. I'm not making any official remark. That is Mr. Sheikah Dance's job. But as of right now, I really appreciate you saying that you love Chaos Theory. I love Eamon. He's a great, fun character. He's a little Kenku guy. But as of right now, it's up in the air. It's up in the air, and that's kind of all I can say. So who knows? Who knows? But thank you again, Burning Blaze, for the $5. Giappi3903 sent in 50 pounds. Ciao, Zachary the Bold. I have a bit of a loaded question. What are we at? Oh, long episode. The first world I ever made was Rye. It was heavily inspired by the first 2 Queen albums and Warhammer Fantasy. Okay, awesome. But after 3 campaigns, it just feels like I'm DMing a different version of Faerun. We even switched to Pathfinder 2nd Edition in our last campaign, but the feeling was still there. Now I'm building a completely underground setting where the early mortals challenged their tyrannical pantheon of gods and tried achieving godhood for themselves, but were defeated and punished into the depths of the world, like a Tower of Babel type situation. The campaign will take place in millennials after this entombment, so the world has already expanded downwards through 5 layers of different climates, fauna, flora, and playable races. For the example of the second layer is thick jungle with gigantic mushrooms that reaches the immense cavern's roof, while the 4th layer is in the wasteland where ancient races fought each other till extinction, leaving behind a barren wasteland and statues of their now forgotten gods. My main question is it better to write a mythology with how the world was created, homebrew races and monsters, and create the main settlements of the setting? Or is it better to just come up with random stuff and create the world and story around that? I've created a whole system on how they make coins out of special wood and how they can't get counterfeit in a guild made of mostly dwarves called the Stone Speakers that create a magical tablet of stone as replacements for scrolls and spellbooks, since paper is incredibly difficult to get your hands on before some of the lore important events or wars or things like that. And how do you make a more unique class fantasy setting that isn't a bootleg version of Faerun? Thanks a lot. And rants is dropping. Okay. Oh, thank you a lot for the rants and the videos you're dropping, and much love from Italy. So, great question. It's a bit of a long one. I don't think I'll be able to talk to this one in depth due to the time, and I got other things I got to go to today, but you got to look at what the problems are in Faerun, and I've been very vocal about this for quite a long time. And the thing that you have to think about is what makes Faerun Faerun. What makes Faerun feel like Faerun? And the reason that Faerun feels like Faerun is that it feels like nothing. Is that it is a very generic, open-ended, magic freedom, be whatever, do whatever you want kind of thing, right? There are ways to go about making a world in which you can differentiate your portions to make them feel like their own distinct area. And sorry to admit, wooden coins and a certain type of, weaving baskets or creating clay pots or something like that isn't enough for your players to feel different in that area. It's cool, quirky, it's cool and fun, and it's fun to write stuff like that. We got to realize at the broader image, what about Faerun makes Faerun so milquetoast? And in my opinion, is that it has a fundamental, it was written on the foundation that it was meant for anyone for any adventure, right? It's supposed to be broad. It's supposed to be all of these things, right? And a lot of the times I have troubles finding regional conflicts, differences in between areas, the conflicts inside of a lot of plots that I play inside of Faerun or Forgotten Realms adventures are very generic. Very bad guy versus good guy, lich, dragon queen, whatever, ancient evil awakening. Trying to take this. There are more complex problems you can have your players face. And I think those are the two, in the shortest way possible, I think those are the two main things about my dislikes in Faerun that you can improve on, or why it feels like Faerun, is that Faerun is milquetoast. The conflicts are very, they're to be expected. It's a fantasy, bad versus good guy, Try to break down what you do and do not like about Faerun, what you do and don't like about your own version, and kind of where those worlds cross over. And I think you're working out a lot of details, but this is such a broad question about your world that I think you're realizing the payoff for putting in these little details aren't making the difference you thought they would. And it's because, it's a fantasy world that doesn't have a certain edge to it. And I'm not saying that's like a gritty edge or an edgy edge. I'm saying it doesn't have something that makes it distinguishable on its own. And there's plenty of things. I mean, like almost Warhammer Age of Sigmar or Warhammer Fantasy, is like almost a Faerun that it's more distinct. I mean, there's zombie pirates. That's cool. Like whatever. Or maybe there's not anymore. You can fact check me in the comments. But just be real. Just realize that is probably where your problems stem from. But great question. And I had not realized it was the last thing we were going to get to on the show. Maybe I would have spent a little bit more time on it, but appreciate the big 50. Thank you. Love to Italy. If you haven't checked them out yet, Mana Project Studios is based in Italy or Sicily or something. And I think a lot of their books, almost all of their books, are in Italian. And they have, it's over in my living room, but they have their own TTRPG as well. So check it out. Historia is my favorite D&D supplement ever made. You can check that out. Not sponsored. None of this is sponsored. None of that is sponsored. All right. Thank you for stopping by. If you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe. We're almost at 500,000. More to come out this week. Thank you for the love on the last video. And I hope you enjoy your week. Thank you for stopping in. Bye.